Time for another edition of the Kaufman Corner podcast with you. I won't say as always, some of the time, now all the time. David Lesky from Inside the Crown. I'm Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. David wrote a great piece. We're going to expand upon it here tonight. If you checked out his Inside the Crown blog, must read if you're a Kansas City Royals fan. Basically did the rankings, each one of the positions, each one of the position groups, we'll call it, for the American League Central. Where do the Royals stack up against the White Sox, the Tigers, the Guardians, the Twins, when it comes to their starting pitching, their offense, their bullpen, defense, base running? We're going to break it all down right here, right now on the Kaufman Corner podcast.
You're listening to the Kaufman Corner Podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kaufman Corner is hosted by David Lesky and Soren Petro. David Lesky is an accomplished author and the publisher of the Inside the Crown Royals baseball newsletter. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kaufman Corner is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are your hosts, David Lesky and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. Off and running here on the Kaufman Corner podcast. And David, let's talk a little bit about, when you did this, if you were surprised. You dug in and measured them each one of these aspects, like I said, offense, starting pitching, bullpen, defense, base running. We'll get into each one here in a second. But anything surprised you when you dug into it? Did you find that the Royals were better or worse somewhere than you thought they were going to be?
Honestly, no, which was a little bit surprising. Like last year I did it, and you could have made an argument heading into the season that the Royals had the best offense in the division, which is funny to think about now. But, I mean, think about where we were at this time last year, coming off a year where they had the fifth most runs in baseball when Vinny got hurt and all that. And this year, though, it just kind of went where I thought it would go. And the way I did it was I didn't put it all together until the end. I did it each one. I tried to be very, obviously you have biases and stuff as you're going through it, but I tried to be very siloed in each one. And somehow it ended up pretty much exactly how I thought. I will say from the whole division standpoint, Cleveland and Minnesota were a lot closer than I expected. I thought the Twins would end up very clearly in fourth in this. And in the end, yes, they were fourth, but in the end, it was pretty close between those two teams. And I was a little bit surprised by that, which just shows there's Guardians devil magic somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I think the Twins, they talked about the fire sale and they did sell off some people, but we also assumed that then they were going to sell off everything else, and they never got around to it. So I think people will be surprised that the Twins aren't as bad as maybe, people thought that they were going to be at one point.
But the other thing too, and we'll get into this obviously, but it's easy to say, okay, the starting pitching is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, the gap between 1 and 2, for example, in starting pitching, I think is pretty big because the Tigers now have Skubal and Framber Valdez, and the Royals, I have number 2. We'll get into that obviously, but I think that there's more than just there's a 1 point gap between the two, right? And so it's interesting, looking at that and how do you weight this versus that and all that good stuff. But yeah, I think the Twins are they're not going to hold a lead, and I got into that because I think the back of their bullpen, the struggles that they will have in the bullpen because they traded 6 guys, 5, whatever it was, their whole bullpen basically last year. I think that's going to hurt them way more in wins and losses than it does if you just do a straight ranking, because I think they're going to lead a lot of games in the 7th inning 5-3, and they're going to lose those games 7-6. And we've seen it in Kansas City, and every city has seen it, but we've seen our fair share of bad bullpens. over the years, and that's going to be what kills them. So I think the Guardians are significantly better than them, but I think if you look at it position by position, the Twins end up pretty close.
Yeah. And I think that would surprise a lot of people. Like I said, I think the what is it? The headlines of their demise have been greatly exaggerated. What's that?
You're right.
I can't remember.
The rumors of their demise.
Yeah, the rumors of their demise have been greatly exaggerated. All right, well, let's dig in. Let's start with the offensive side of things. I don't think anybody's shocked that the Tigers are at the top of this list, or will they be? Tigers, Twins, Royals, White Sox, Guardians is the way you stacked them. But I think there's always, it doesn't mean that there's 20% apart, right? Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
Is so where do we sit? The Royals are the third best offense. Where do we sit as far as how close they are to being able to get by the Twins, get by the Tigers, and what is it going to take? Is Jack Caglione becoming the player that he's supposed to be? Carter Jensen becoming the player? I guess, in other words, is there enough in-house potential to possibly move ahead on that list?
I think they could end the year as the best offense in the division. I don't think they will, but I think they could, because and it's so interesting thinking about the Royals offense and the struggles. And I think that they're in a lot of ways not overblown, clearly not overblown, but in some ways a little bit overblown, because you look at this team and they have 4 guys who you can count on. And we all want to predict there's a lot of predictions every year that Salvi's going to finally fall off a cliff. At this point, until he does, I'm done. I'm not going to predict he's going to, because every year you say, okay, this is the year, and then it doesn't happen. I'll be wrong. I'll be wrong one year and I don't care. And so then you start to look, okay, if, and there's a lot of ifs, if Caglione hits, if Jensen does what he did in September, if India bounces back, if Collins gets on base, all of a sudden your lineup goes 8 deep. and it's not a wild, they're not wild ifs. You're asking Isaac Collins to do what he did last year. Okay, that seems reasonable. You're asking Jonathan India to do what he did 2 years ago, the year before last. That's not wild. You're asking Carter Jensen to be 80% of what he was in September. Okay, I think that might be a lot, but it's whatever. You're asking Jack Caglione to be a difference maker. He looked like he was a difference maker before he came up. None of these are wild. And I was thinking about this the other day, and I think it may have been John Wathan who said this. I caddied a Royals golf tournament when I was like 22 or something, and I was with John Wathan. And so I think this was when it happened. And if it's not, sorry, Duke, I got it wrong. But somebody, and I think it was him, told me that when you count on ifs, 20% are going to happen, 20% are going to be in the middle, and the rest are going to be disappointments. And so I think that's reasonable. If that happens, if one of the ifs comes through, one of them is reasonable, now the lineup goes 6-7 deep. I could see it being the best in the division, especially because you look at the 2 who I have above it. The Tigers have their issues. Look, I mean, I think they are the best offense in the division, but at the same time, I mean, you look at the players that they have. Colt Keith is no guarantee. Gleyber Torres finished the year poorly, and he hasn't had a 400 slugging percentage in 3 years. It will be 3 years once the season starts. Kerry Carpenter and Riley Green couldn't hit lefties. Spencer Torkelson had a great start, but wasn't great. I mean, they have questions too. The Twins have questions. The Twins have Byron Buxton's amazing. Is he going to be on the field? He was last year, mostly. But then like Luke Keyshaw, I think he looks really good. We've seen young players struggle. Matt Wallner has struggled. Ryan Jeffers has not always been good.
My fantasy team can attest to Matt Wallner's struggles.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people probably can, because he looks like a guy who should be a dominant force, and he's just not. And so I don't know. I could see anybody really falling off, because I think the division offensively is very mediocre. I mean, there's a world. Tell me if you disagree with this. There's a world the White Sox have the best offense in the division when it's all said and done. They got a lot of young talent in that lineup. I don't think they will, but they have a lot of young talent.
Well, I think people might be surprised. I mean, like, runs scored last year, like the breakdown of how it went in the division. Tigers 758. All right. Second, Twins 678. Third, Royals 651. But fourth, White Sox 647. They only scored 4 less runs than the Royals. And then fifth, the team that won the division, the Cleveland Guardians, 643. So they only scored 8 less. So that's why when I talk about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's not like Tigers are 100, Twins are 80, Royals are 60. In reality, the Royals were the third best offense last year, but they were much closer to being the worst than they were being the best.
What
And
I thought was
so,
interesting, though,
yeah.
look at the second half with the Royals and White Sox. Those two teams were top 10. And so, a lot of factors there. But you're right. It's so close. Just so close.
Yeah. And so I think that's one of the things, like, can the Royals make up the ground? Right. And I think so much of it, you hit upon it. I think there's like how many, like if everybody regresses to the mean, how many are going up and how many are going down? Right. So like Bobby Wood Jr., up or down?
I mean, I think man, I was going to say down, but I'm not entirely sure that's true offensively.
I think up for Bobby Wood Jr.
I think up too. Yeah.
I think down for Maikel Garcia. I think up for Jonathan India.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and this is not to say that this is not a prediction that this is going to happen. If Maikel Garcia is going to be a superstar, then he'll continue to go up. But he had the best offensive season of his career, so I would expect him to regress back. I think somewhere between last year and 2 years ago is Bobby Wood Jr., so I expect him to be a little bit better, and I expect the power to continue to come for him as he learns the pitching and has more experience. I expect Jonathan India to be better. Right? He won't be fooling around in the outfield. So I expect him to be better. I expect Vinny Pasquantino to be a little bit worse. I expect Salvador Perez to be the same, like you said. I agree with what you said about trying to predict that he's going to fall off. But I wouldn't put him up. If you said you got to go up or down, I'd go down on him. Carter Jensen, we haven't seen enough, but I'd go down from the fantastic numbers. But I still think up off what they got from Freddie Fermin and the rest of the backup catchers.
Right.
Yeah. I would go. If I had to go up or down, I think Kyle Isbell, but I would probably go up just a little bit on Isbell.
He's the one guy you look at, you're like, this is who he is.
Yeah.
He's been this for 3 years now.
Yeah. Isaac Collins down. I think, the way that on base percentage, I think, if I gave you 333 for an on base percentage for him right now, would you bank it?
It was 368 last year. Yeah, I probably would.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a regression. Like, I don't. If he's 368 on base, this team is looking really good. Overall, left field.
He's 350 on base.
Yeah, overall left field up, and then the big one is Jack Caglione. I mean, I think that's the monster one. Is like, if that is a heart of the order bat that strikes fear into the other team, and if he can have a 300 on base with slug, then the lineup, I think, has a chance to take a big step forward. And the question is, are they what they finished, or are they the accumulation of everything? So, yeah, I think I like him at third too. I don't disagree with you, but I think it's third with advancement, closer to the top.
Yeah, my concern, and this is not, and obviously some of this is other teams. If the Twins are what they can be, and the Tigers are what they can be, I think that they are clearly better on paper, which is why I had them 1 and 2. But again, I look at that White Sox team, and I mean, there is a world. Kyle Teal, Colson Montgomery, Benintendi's been a different hitter since he went there, but he's hit for some power. Murakami is a big if right now for them, but you start to look at that lineup, it falls off pretty quick. But there's a world that they're really pretty good offensively, and they're not going to pitch, so I'm not worried about them winning the division, but or at least starting pitching. But I mean, the other teams could get there, and the other thing too, Cleveland is really interesting to me because they didn't hit last year, like, at all. But Stephen Kwan is probably better than he was last year. If you want to do the up and down with them, there's a world that they actually hit too. And so the Royals could be better, but end up as the fourth best offense in the division. And that the other teams around them make a difference.
Yeah, I think you put it very well. If I said, okay, third, but are they closer to the first or closer to fifth? Because last year they were much closer to fifth.
I think they're probably closer to first because I think the Tigers regress some. Okay. And the Twins are, I think they're closer to second than fifth. I think they're probably end up closer to first than fifth too, just because of that regression for the Tigers.
Yeah, I think that's probably what we're looking. I think I'm with you. I think the Tigers come back to the pack a little bit.
They needed a bat, and they didn't do it.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I don't know how they didn't. I mean, they got a big arm, but I don't know how they didn't get that bat.
Yeah. All right. We'll take a break. We'll get into the starting rotation, the bullpen, the defense, the base running. We'll do it after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot.
Now at Whataburger, you can get the new Big Ranch Wrap for $3, 5 premium Whata chicken bites for $4, or a bacon cheese Whataburger Jr. for $5. Add fries and a drink for a little more. Now that's a Whata deal at Whataburger. Download the app.
Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. All right, let's talk about the starting pitching, how that stacks up in the division. David, you want to run down what you had there, your 1 through 5, and why the Tigers are again at the top?
Because they're annoying is why. No.
Yeah.
I went Tigers, Royals, Twins, Guardians, White Sox. And I think people would be surprised. I think if you just blindly rated, you'd put the Guardians ahead of the Twins. But I look at the Twins rotation. They're surprisingly good. You've got I'm blanking on his name. Pablo Lopez,
Joe
Ryan, and Bailey Ober, who Bailey Ober had a bad year, but he's been pretty good his career. And then I think they've got some upside. Simeon Woods Richardson is an interesting arm. They got Taj Bradley from the Rays. I'm blanking on that. There's a couple other guys. There's Zebby Matthews looked really good last year. I thought at times, not all the time. Mick Abel was a big prospect for the Phillies, and they got him. I mean, there's some post-hype guys there, I think. And the Tigers are at the top because of Scooble. But then literally I was writing this newsletter and I had written the starting rotation. This was, I don't know, whatever time it was. And then the Framber Valdez news came and I was like, well, I got to rewrite the ranking was the same because the Tigers were the top just because they have the best. But now they added another guy. So to me, they're a pretty easy number one. I mean,
when you have that 1-2 punch up top, I agree. I mean, Cole Reagans is as good as anybody in there when he's healthy, but you got to ding him for, health has been a big question for him. And that's part of it.
I mean, right now, if you're the Royals, I think that, the Royals probably start Cole Reagans on opening day over Framber Valdez if they had Valdez just because they believe in their guy. But I mean, I think that Framber Valdez probably would deserve it a little bit more. And then they added Justin Verlander, who had a really good second half, and this was after I wrote it. So it's gotten even better. And they lost Reese Olson for the year, so that kind of evened out a little bit. But I mean, you look at their rotation. Casey Mize or Verlander are their number 5 starter. They're their 4-5s. And I know that Verlander is, what is he, 43, 44, whatever he is. Yeah. But again, he had a really solid second half for the Giants. So they're an easy 1. But then I think the Royals are a really easy 2 in this. And I think part of it is because of the depth. We've talked about that a billion times.
Is depth, before you go too far for the Tigers, is depth a problem for the Tigers?
I thought it wouldn't be. That was before Olsen got hurt, of course. But they also have Troy Melton. I say his name wrong all the time. I think I might be right here, actually. Cater Montero, who's filled in here and there. I mean, I like the Royals 6 through 10 better than the Tigers 6 through 10, but I think they've got some arms. I don't. If three guys get hurt, I think they're in trouble. But I think you can fill in with Melton and Montero and there's somebody else. Ty Madden. It has progressed a little bit. He looked pretty decent last year in the minors, at least. But I do think it's a bit of an issue for them. It's a big issue for the Twins. They have some, because a lot of their interesting depth is again post-hype guys, and so a lot of those guys aren't going to pan out. And I think the Royals, I mean, your sixth starter is a guy who put up a sub-2 ERA for you. It's Stephen Kolek. Maybe he's a seventh starter. I don't know. Ryan Bergert's in there, who looked really good. I mean, I know Bailey Falter was terrible, but when he's a depth guy for your team, you feel pretty good about that. They just got Mitch Spence, who has not pitched great as a starter, but has shown flashes. And I wonder a little bit how much Mike McFerrin played into that coming from the A's. So there's some questions there, but even so, I mean, with that starting five, they have to be number one. But again, I think the Royals have to be number two. Cole Reagans, Chris Bubich, Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha, Noah Cameron. Those are five legitimate starting pitchers. I mean, Noah Cameron, let's be real, he pitched over his head. A 2.99 ERA with the peripherals he had are probably not going to happen again. And that's fine because he's the number 5 starter. Like, who cares? You know, even if he's a 4 ERA guy, that's great. That's great to have. And then again, you've got all the depth behind it. I think there are two clear spots. Tigers 1, White Sox 5. The White Sox rotation is brutal for all the work they've done. And they've got some guys in the minors, but man, that's a rough rotation to run with.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Royals rotation, the depth would be the reason if you wanted to say, oh, hey, I think they're just as good as the Tigers. It's because no rotation. I mean, I think we looked it up, and the average playoff team needed 8 to 10 different guys to start over the course of the year. So, like, we can talk about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but 6, 7, 8 almost always are necessary. I know the Royals didn't need it 2 years ago, and that was remarkable, but 6, 7, 8 are almost always necessary for even the best teams, right? It's not just a matter of all the best teams stay healthy. And so when you add in Kolek, Bergert, that's a pretty nice spot. And I really think, look, as well as Bubich pitched, I mean, how far back is Reagans and Bubich from Valdez and Skubal? Now,
yeah, it's not as far as it looks.
We'll take Skubal and Valdez because they're much more durable, right? But if you would get 30 starts out of each of those two guys, how different are those two guys? How different are those two tandems?
Well, I mean, it's a good question. I'm looking at the Fangraphs projections right now, and they've got Reagan. Let's go by wins above replacement because it's an easy, fast number. Reagans and Bubich are at 6.7, and Skubal and Valdez are 9.9. So 3 wins. I think that there's more upside for Cole Reagans because he's at I believe it's 4.1 wins above replacement. If he's making 30 starts, especially the way he looked in 2024 and the way he looked in those last 3 starts, 4 starts, whatever it was in September, I think 4.1 is low if he's making 30 starts. Right. I think he's probably more in the mid 5s. And pitcher WAR is interesting because like Tarek Skubal was one of the best. He was one of the 2 best pitchers in baseball last year and one of the best players in baseball, I think you could say. And yet I think he would have finished like 12th in WAR, or he did finish 12th in WAR because position players are just so much higher. But in Bubich, if he goes 30 starts at what he did last year, I mean, I think he's getting to clearing 4 easy. And all of a sudden you're looking at the same number as the Tigers projection. And so, yeah, I don't think it's as far off as it may seem, but to me, there's too many ifs to get there to say that they are actually going to be better.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Let's move to the bullpen. The Royals have obviously invested in trying to make the bullpen better. How did you rank the bullpen?
I actually had them number 1. I had them 1, Guardians 2, Tigers 3, and then White Sox and Twins were 5. I think this was the one spot that White Sox weren't last. So good for them. But the White Sox have done a lot with their bullpen, actually. But I had the Royals at the top, and it's because I think they have a really versatile bullpen. And I think there's some upside in the bullpen that the other teams don't necessarily have. Because like Lucas Urseg, for example, he had a sub 20% strikeout rate last year. And I'm actually working on something right now, maybe for tomorrow, probably Tuesday, about why. And some of it is fluky. Some of it is not, just it doesn't make sense. Like he had the same chase rate. He got a swinging strike rate that was higher than he had in 2023 with the A's when he had, I think it was a 27% strikeout rate. So there's some fluky things in there with him. I think he's going to get strikeouts. I think Carlos Estevez is going to bounce back a little bit on the strikeout front, not drastically, but his velocity wasn't a problem last year. The movement wasn't a problem last year. I could see him bouncing back a little bit, but then you've got like Luinder Avila, you've got Steven Cruz, maybe a full season. I like the Royals bullpen quite a bit. And then you look, it's easy to say the Guardians are really good because they always have a good bullpen, but I mean, they don't have Clase anymore. And right. Cade Smith is really good, but now who's behind? Hunter Gaddis is good, not great. I'm looking again. Roster Resource on Fangraphs is a great site. Sean Armstrong is a setup man. 35 years old. He's not a strikeout guy. Eric Sabrowski is an old young pitcher. Yeah, I mean, this is not they're going to get a lot out of their bullpen because I think they're really good at doing that, but they're not a great bullpen like they were a couple of years ago. And then the Tigers I thought were really interesting because they have 3 closers now. They went out and they signed Kenley Jansen. They have Will Vest, who pitched really well for them down the stretch, and they re-signed Kyle Finnegan. The problem I have is Kenley Jansen is what, 40, 39, 38, whatever he is. And he's not what he used to be. He's still good, but he's not great. Will Vest is good, not great. Kyle Finnegan was really, really great for them down the stretch, but he's had his issues. And then, they've got some mix and match guys. And I think AJ Hinch is probably the best bullpen manager in the division, if not the game. But even so, the talent isn't wonderful. And then I think the last 2 teams are just, the White Sox did a lot, like I said. Sir Anthony Dominguez, I like Jordan Ledger. Grant Taylor looks really good. Sean Newcomb looks like he's going to be in the bullpen now. They signed Eric Fetty. Jordan Hicks is an interesting reclamation project, but they're still not good. And the Twins bullpen is bad now after trading away everybody.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think for the Royals, when you look at the depth that they have, like they don't necessarily have. I think if Lucas Urseg goes back to being Lucas Urseg from 24, then I think this bullpen could be number 1 with a bullet, right? Because then I think you have everything. I think you have a legit 9th inning guy in Estevez, but then I think you have an absolute fireman to go do it. And he's got to get back to getting the swing and miss. I mean, that was one of the things Randy and I, in our what we want to see from spring training, was like, I want to see him getting back to getting strikeouts, right? That has to, otherwise I don't like the idea of using him the way Matt Cotrero used him.
Agreed.
Agreed. Yeah. That position is for guys that can just go blow people away. If you're just going to be like, well, you're going up against the best of the best. I think if he does not, I mean, he was good last year. He just wasn't great. And so I think
really good ground ball rate for what it's worth.
It was, yes. And I think everybody's better when they know their role. So like, I think part of the reason why HDH was so good was everybody knew what time of the game it was their time to get up. And so if the starter looked like he was piling up pitches, okay, then Herrera knew 7th was his, and everybody else knew 8th, 9th. If the starter was cruising, Herrera knew he didn't have to get up, but everybody could kind of prepare like a closer. The whole Mariano Rivera routine. Everybody could have their routine for each inning. And I think that's part of the reason for the success. I understand why Cotrero's using Urseg the way he is, and it's great if the guy can be ready in a moment's notice. And not all of them are moment's notices. He's pre-programmed a lot of that. Like, okay, we figure to be getting to this point, 3rd time around, he's going to see this part. And so that's it. So he does have some preparation time, but like, I don't think you want him to just keep having to go face the best of the best every night if he's not able to overmatch them. And so I think they'd be better off just saying, okay, if you want Estevez in the 9th, fine. 8th is Urseg, and then it's Strom if Urseg's not available, and move everybody back a spot. When Estevez isn't available, then Urseg becomes the 9th, and so that everybody can know their role. I am a believer that everybody performs better like that.
Yeah, I agree. How much do you think? How big of a difference do you think Strom makes for Urseg? To have another guy who you can count on, because think about the last couple of years. Well, since Urseg, last year and a half, I guess. Chris Bubic was there in 2024, and I guess that's kind of maybe makes my point. But when the Royals had Lucas Urseg and Chris Bubic, Lucas Urseg was at his best, and I guess that's not entirely fair because they had Urseg and Estevez last year. But how much of a difference do you think Matt Strom makes for Urseg and being able to not have to be that only guy?
I think that's a great point. It's kind of like your Carter Jensen keeping Salvador Perez fresher, right?
Yeah.
If you've got somebody else you can go to, and you literally don't have to push Urseg at all, and he just pitches when he's 100%, like the tank is full. That's interesting. I think that will be interesting to watch. So I think it does matter, and I really think it's important for like an Avila to come along and supplement with another power arm in the back, right? Or to find one along the way.
Well, and that's it. They didn't have enough power last year. That's for sure. And maybe it's Alex Lang too. Maybe he's the guy who steps up because we've talked about it a million times. They just didn't get enough strikeouts, and part of it is they didn't throw hard enough. I mean, everybody's got 6 guys who throw 99, and the Royals were trotting out John Schreiber in the 8th inning a lot. Which John Schreiber has had his moments. Let's not pretend like he's been terrible for the Royals, but he's not a guy who you want to pitch in high leverage innings every single night in a playoff race. And I think they've built a bullpen where he doesn't have to now. But they need that high octane arm or 4 more, really.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly. And I think they've got a chance the way they're developing pitching. I think they've got a pretty good chance that they're going to find it. So I'm not overly worried, and that's where I think the bullpen is going to be a real strength for this team. I mean,
I agree.
I do think and I think it could end up being a problem for the Tigers. That's one of the places where I think they could get there. All right, so want to get into the defense, the base running. We'll add it all up, tell you what it means. We'll do it after you hear from our friends at Italian Delight. Italian Delight was the first restaurant to bring true New York-style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago. They sell whole pies or pizza by the slice, or enjoy their classic strombolis, calzones, and sausage rolls. Sandwich lovers, check out their lineup of hot and cold subs, the combo, the meatball, or the Philly cheesesteak, just to name a few. And don't forget the pasta. Their famous lasagna and classic chicken Alfredo always hit the spot. And if you're hungry for lunch, check out their daily lunch specials, starting at under $10. Italian Delight can even cater your next work function or party. Dine in, carry out, or delivery, it's Italian Delight. Located just 3 minutes east of Kansas Speedway at 8145 State Ave in KCK. Check out the menu and order online at ItalianDelightKS.com. Kansas City's own Italian Delight.
This episode of Kaufman Corner is brought to you by Frontier Justice, where freedom is a lifestyle grounded in safety, responsibility, and respect. With locations in Lee's Summit, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas, and Jenks, Oklahoma, Frontier Justice offers firearms retail, a premier indoor shooting range, and training all under one roof. Whether you're new to shooting or a seasoned pro, you'll find expert staff, top-tier gear, and a strong sense of community. Faith, family, freedom. That's what Frontier Justice stands for. Visit frontier-justice.com to learn more.
Green Light Dispensary, voted Kansas City's best dispensary and your go-to for quick, convenient service. With 4 locations across the Kansas City area, we're never far away. Our drive-through and express windows make it easy to get in, get out, and get on with your day. Our award-winning service is powered by a team of experts dedicated to making your experience seamless and enjoyable. It's no wonder we've been voted the best. Convenient locations, fast service, knowledgeable staff. That's the Green Light difference. Visit us today.
All right, let's talk about the defense, David. Stacking up the defense. This one, you went Guardians, Royals, Tigers, Twins, White Sox. The Guardians up at the top. How close are the Royals to being number 1, or are they more back in the pack?
No, I think 1, 2 are way out ahead of everybody.
And you have Michael Garcia and Bobby Wood Jr. That's a pretty good place to start. And Kyle Isbell as well.
Yeah, exactly. And then you add in Isaac Collins was pretty good in left field last year. He helps quite a bit. I think the fences coming in help a little bit with some of those guys. I do. It's less ground to cover. The Royals and this is such a weird spot to be amazing defensively. Royals pitchers for the last 2 years have been incredible defenders, which it's kind of ironic that that's what torpedoed the 2024 season, was a bad throw by a pitcher, because the defense has been so good on the mound, bizarrely. But yeah, I mean, if you look at I think Cleveland is better all around the field. I'm concerned about the Royals defense because of Caglione and Wright and India at second. And that Pasquantino, the numbers are not great there. But he's fine. I really, he's fine. I don't have a problem either way with him. But Caglione in right field concerns me. India at second base. Cleveland doesn't have that hole, it feels like. And that's the difference. I think the Royals are the best team defensively, maybe in the American League, at shortstop and third base. And the only reason not in baseball at third base because Brian Hayes exists. I think Garcia's 2 or 3 in baseball defensively at third. Witt's number 1 at shortstop. I mean, so that's great, and that's huge. Left side of your infield being the best is more important than right field being the worst or the 8th worst or whatever. But that's why I had Cleveland number 1. The rest of the division, I think, lags behind quite a bit. The Tigers have a lot of questions. They did really well in defensive run saves last year, but other metrics not so great. Their catching is incredible defensively. They've got Parker Meadows in center field. That's great. But I mean, Gleyber Torres isn't very good. Colt Keith is okay. Spencer Torkelson isn't very good. Riley Green has fluctuated a little bit. The Twins, I think, are going to be a disaster defensively outside of Byron Buxton. They just don't impress me anywhere. And the White Sox, they're young, but I don't love what they have there. So I think it's Royals and Guardians, and then everybody else.
Yeah, I think so as well, and I think the Royals very easily. Jack Caglione's going to be okay. I mean, I'll be honest. I think he was a lot better than I thought he was going to be out there.
Agreed.
Still don't love him running around in the outfield. Still would like to see. I don't like a guy that big, chasing down fly balls and everything. But he was much better than I thought. So he'll at least catch the ones he gets to. Foot speed will be slow, so he'll be a little below average. But Kyle Isbell, at least for now. But that's my fear, is when Kyle Isbell starts to lose a step. Like, center fielders really only have about a 4 or 5 year shelf life of when they're elite. Like the old days of thinking Bernie Williams was great at age 34 or 5 because of the reputation. The metrics say that everybody pretty much falls off, right? Yeah. And so, they need him to be elite defensively, and he needs to be elite defensively to warrant the playing time, because he's not elite bat wise. And so I do think that's an important, piece of the puzzle there, is that he has to be good out there in center field. And I worry that they may be on borrowed time with him.
Well, and I also worry that.
And do you worry about Carter Jensen behind the dish as to what he's going to look like?
That's fair too. On the Isbell front, I worry that if the bat falls off anymore, which I don't think it will. I think he's just not I think he is what he is, which is not a good hitter. But I don't think I think his defense will still be good enough to support the number 9 spot, whatever. But if Lane Thomas needs to play because the bat doesn't play, Lane Thomas is not as good as Kyle Isbell. And all of a sudden, now you talk about you have a pretty good left fielder, an okay center fielder, and a bad right fielder. And that makes that's a bad outfield defense. If you have a pretty good left fielder, a really good center fielder, and a bad right fielder, you can hide that, But so I worry a little bit that if the bat falls off and Lane Thomas has to play every day in center field, or almost every day, all of a sudden that outfield defense struggles. Is that mitigated by the fences coming in? I don't think enough, because we talked about it a few podcasts on the Thursday podcast. I don't think it changes as much as it maybe people are talking about it changing. But yeah, there are some concerns defensively, but again, Witt and Garcia mitigate a lot of that. I think that helps quite a bit.
Yeah, I think it's a great place to start. Like I said, Kyle Isbell should be good. As long as he is, then they look pretty good on the defensive side of things. All right, base running, which, by the way, I love Mark. Yes, we're live, Mark. Okay, don't worry. From Renee. By the way, fine proprietor of Italian Delight, one of our sponsors you just heard from. I remember when we used to steal bases, Terry. base runners killed him last year. Yes, that has been an issue for this. That was a big issue for this team last year, and yet you've still got him third. Explain yourself.
Well, I think part of it is the White Sox stink at running the bases. So I think that they're an easy number 5, right? I think that having the White Sox helps quite a bit. I think the Twins are going to struggle on the bases. And some of that is because they were okay. They were kind of Royals range last year. But I just don't think they're very fast. I don't think they're especially good on the bases, other than, I feel like he said it was the Twins, other than Byron Buxton, which is the same as the defense. They're just not that good on the bases. And so the other thing that I keep coming back to, and I don't know how many times I've said this, but the 2025 Royals, Fangraphs has a base running stat, and it encompasses, I mean, pretty much everything. It base running runs above average, includes stolen bases, includes caught stealing, all that. They were minus 4.1 last year, which was 21st in baseball, ahead of the White Sox, for the record. And then I go back, 2024, they were plus 8.8, 7th in baseball. 2023, they were plus 8.8, 7th in baseball. Pretty consistent. Why? What happened? What happened last year? And everybody wanted to fire Damon Hollins because he's the base running coach, but he was also the base running coach in 23 and 24. And I think what the Royals, I will continue to argue, because their base running was considerably better, at least by stolen base percentage and ratings in the second half, that they were pressing on the bases. And if they can't score runs again, the base running is going to be part of the problem. But if they can, I think they'll be better.
Did they just get into a run? Like, to me, I kind of bristled at Matt Quatraro talking when I think it was in the closing press conference, kind of wrapping up the season, where he's like, well, we've got to do better. We've got to find a way to get more from the base running. And, he seemed I can't remember. And I should go back and listen to it again so I could quote it directly. But the vibe, the tenor of it was that instead of like, we're going to back off and stop creating more outs, it was like, oh, we need to put the foot on the pedal more. And I'm like, no, like that for me, that's a hard no. Now I am open to the idea that it was just, they just got into a rut, and it was the part of their game where they're like, well, I'm going to make something happen here today. Or it was a product of, we can't hit, so we've got to get an extra base. And so their inability to hit bled over into their base running. That I'm hoping is the case, and that when they hit better, they'll run the bases better, because they're not trying to make up for their inability to get on base and to hit the ball. So, but I was a little bit nervous with what Matt Quatraro had to say at the end of the year about how he thought they were going to, it was just something. And again, I should have looked up the quote, but it was something to the tune of like, we've got to, get more out of it. And I'm like, well, or stop giving away outs. How about that?
Let me ask you a question, and this is a loaded question, and I will come back with the other side of it. Where do you think the Royals ranked in outs on the bases in 2025 out of 30 teams?
Out of 30 teams, I mean, like the top of my head, I'm sure they got better as the year wore on, later in the year as they started hitting better. My assumption is based upon, because I do think the bad hitting was was them trying to do too much on the bases. So I assume when they hit better, they got better on the bases. I don't know if I'm right about that, just going off memory. But I mean, my recollection is that they were god awful, that they were the 4th or 5th worst in baseball. Eighth fewest
outs on which shocked me. Now, what that doesn't include is pickoffs.
Okay.
And they had the most pickoffs in baseball. So that's the other side of it. But if you add it up, 39 times they were out on the bases, 21 times they were picked off. So that's 60, which I'd have to do the math here. I don't know, but there are at least 15 teams with fewer or with more than 60 outs on the bases plus pickoffs, which was really surprising to me. Not because, like you said, it seemed like they were getting thrown out on the bases every single day, and in some ways there were a lot of pickoffs. But 39 outs on the bases, they were thrown out, and that's not like force out at home or anything. That is a runner on third, and then the contact play was on or whatever, and they were thrown out at home. I was really surprised by that. And pickoffs, and this is anecdotal, but I've been told a couple times by people, pickoffs come from pressing and from leaning because you got to get a base, from doing, whatever. And I think that's fair. I don't know if that's what happened, obviously, but I mean, I go back to 2024 when they were a good base running team. They got picked off 17 times, which was the fourth most in baseball. I
Stop
think
doing it.
I agree with that, and that's what I was going to come back to. Stop doing that. But they didn't actually get thrown out on the bases as much as I thought they did. That was very surprising to me.
That's overwhelming to me. It's stunning.
Yeah.
To me. Like
eighth fewest. It's crazy.
I know that a lot of the times they were just really bad, though. It's one thing to get picked off by a great move, or hey, we're down 1 and we're at the bottom of the lineup and I pinch run and I gotta go, okay. Some of that's acceptable, but they had, and none of them are coming to mind right now, but they had just brain dead. Pickoffs.
I can think of Jonathan India. I don't want to rail on Jonathan India. I do that way too often. I feel like people have told me that, but he's made some real bad decisions on the bases. I was shocked at how bad of a base runner he was this past season. I mean, I'm looking it up now. I'm curious how many times he made out. He only had 3 outs on the bases. The leader, Kyle Isbell, had a really bad base running season. A year after he had a pretty good one, actually. He was out on the bases 7 times. Michael Garcia 6 times. Witt 4 times. And then Freddie Fermin, Jonathan India, Vinny Pasquantino, and Salvador Perez and Drew Waters were 3 times each. But there were some moments on the bases that you wanted to ask, have you ever played baseball before? Is this the first time you've been on a field? Like, is that, and if it is, just let us know. We'll walk you through it, because it was brutal. I mean, opening day was one of the Kyle Isbell. I don't remember the exact situation now, but he got thrown out. I can't remember if he got thrown out at second. He was on second. I don't know if he got thrown out at third or back at second, but he made just the most brain dead base running decision I feel like I'd ever seen. And then I saw 6 more the rest of the year that were worse. So it was really bad last year, but I keep coming back to, why was it so good the years before when it was so bad this past year? And some of it screams, hey, there was a lot of pressing involved on the bases. And Quatrero talked about that a few times during the season too, I think.
Yeah. It's what made me so surprised by what he said.
All
right. When you add it all up, what does it tally up? You did a point system.
I did, and I hated it, but I did it.
Okay.
It didn't make, well, again, it doesn't make full sense. And I fully admit that, but if you just go, 1st is 5 points, 5th is 1 point.
Right.
The Tigers were the best team, which I think they are. The Royals were the second best. And it wasn't all that close with third, honestly. Right. Now, I think that what I didn't include was the Guardians always get more. I don't know how, but they always get more from their guys. Is that repeatable? I don't know. So I guess the intangible. Is the intangible repeatable? I don't have that answer. I can't measure that. But I had Tigers, Royals, Guardians, Twins, White Sox, which fits pretty much exactly how the projections are, how the betting markets are, which made me feel good, right? That I got the same spot that all these other places get to. But again, I think the Royals and the Tigers, I think, are head and shoulders the best rotation. Like I said earlier, should they get more points for that? Like, should they be farther ahead of the Royals because their rotation is so much better on paper? Or is it that the Royals could be close to the Tigers and maybe they shouldn't? I don't know. So that's where the point system struggles a little bit. And again, like defense, the Royals and Guardians, 1-2 with a bullet. Does that mean should they get more points than the third place team? I don't know, but I do think it ended up that this is how I'll predict the division. If nothing changes between now and opening day, when I put out my predictions, I think that will, this is exactly how I'll lay it out. And not because I did this exercise, but because that's how I would have done it in my head before.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I like when you did the multiplier, basically the point totals. If you did the 1 through 5, Tigers 21, Royals 19, Guardians 12, Twins 12, White Sox 7. That's the way it shook down. You did a multiplier where you did 2 times for offense and starting pitching, 1.5 times for the bullpen, and then just the 1 point on base running and defense, just because of how important they are. That one, Tigers 32.5, Royals 28.5, Guardians 21, Twins 19.5, White Sox 11, which, as you put in the piece down at the bottom, kind of goes right along with what the win totals are, right? That's exactly where the odds makers have it. Tigers 85.5, Royals 81.5, Guardians 80.5, Twins 73.5, and the White Sox 66.5.
Yeah, and I think the Tigers have gone up since then with the
Valdez
Verlander signing.
Yeah,
I think Valdez was in there. I think that. Well, maybe they didn't go up. Actually, I'm curious now.
I'll look at one of them.
But I think that. I think that if you look at this division, I don't think the Twins or White Sox can win it. I think any of the other 3 can. I think the Tigers are and should be the favorites. Tigers are still 85.5, at least on DraftKings. They're 87.5 on whatever this third one is. I don't know what it is, but
it's just a logo. I guess to see another one at 85.5. So
Bet Rivers is their 87.5. I don't know.
This one has the Royals at 82.5.
I saw 83.5 somewhere too.
I'm hard on the over, so I think the Royals are an easy over.
81.5, I'm a really hard over. 83.5 is close to me because I have them 84-ish right now. So that's a really good number if you want to not know what to do. But yeah, I think that I think it makes sense. I think that this is the order of the division. I think if you tell me we fast forward 7 months, 7.5 months, and I was doing calendar math. If we fast forward 7.5 months and you tell me any of the Royals, Tigers, or Guardians won the division, I won't be surprised. I think I'd be surprised if the Tigers finish third. I think they're going to finish first or second. But I think the Royals are. I think any of these 3 teams could win it.
Yeah, I'd like the Royals and the Tigers to be fighting it out. I think that at some point the Guardians' magic has got to stop. Like I don't think. I do think, and I'm predicting it's this year. Right.
Well, but the thing about the Guardians, like they had a freak September. That's what did it. They were 10 games under 500, and then went like, well, what did they? What was they 23-6 or something, or 21-6? It was crazy September, and the Tigers collapsed. It wasn't just that the Guardians were dominant; the Tigers also collapsed. Which, can you predict that again? I don't know, maybe, but I think that it will. I agree with you. I think that it will happen this year where they become mediocre rather than good.
Yeah, I think that's just the reality. All right, remember you can support the Kaufman Corner podcast by supporting our great sponsors, like our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. They're booking appointments now. Go to GannAsphalt.com. Every project comes with a written warranty at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Again, find them online at GannAsphalt.com. Our friends at Northland Injury Law, if you have a case, text HURT to 22222 or call 816-400-HURT. Voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers. Italian Delight. I mentioned our buddy Renee in the chat room, the first restaurant to bring true New York style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago. You never know who you might see there too. Check out their social media posts, some of the famous folks stopping by their daily lunch special starting at under $10. Just 3 minutes east of Kansas Speedway at 8145 State Avenue in KCK. Greenlight Dispensary, 15 locations in Missouri. More on the way, your go-to for all your cannabis needs. Tell them you saw it right here on the Kaufman Corner podcast. Our friends at Whataburger, they're open 24 hours. You're hungry right now? Go. Serving breakfast 11 p to 11 a. All your favorites are there at Whataburger. Like I said, open 24 hours, so take advantage of it. And our friends at Frontier Justice. Of course, Lee Summit, KCK in Jenks, Oklahoma. Whether you're new to shooting or a seasoned pro, you'll find expert staff, top-tier gear, and a strong sense of community. Go to frontier-justice.com to learn more. For David Lesky from Inside the Crown, I'm Soren Petro, saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Kaufman Corner podcast.